Arvid Lindblad has been making the headlines day after day in the Formula One world. But things have gotten a little bit more serious now that he's been granted the super license from the FIA. The young super talent has been dubbed the next Verstappen, but in order for us to see that, he would have to get a chance next to the four-time world champion. With Red Bull confirming Lindblad will have a couple of FP1 tests in 2025, will we see him race as a full-time driver in 2026? And if so, what is the shakeup he'll cause by arriving on the scene in Red Bull? The situation around Lindblad has been hyped up every day, and for all the right reasons. He is believed to be the next Max Verstappen. The speed he's shown at such a young age prompted Red Bull to think beyond the four-time world champion they already have in their own ranks. Verstappen's future is all but certain in the long term, and the Austrian team is speeding up things now with Lindblad. After being able to grant him the super license exemption, they're now preparing him for FP1 runs in a couple of events in 2025. Not only that, but Lindblad will also test the Red Bull cars under the TPC regulations in Imola next week. This is how Mercedes prepared Antonelli for an F1 seat when they announced that he'll be replacing Hamilton. The plans of Helmut Marko and Christian Horner are becoming more and more visible. They want to have Lindblad on the grid as early as 2026. If this happens, Arvid would likely replace Isaac Hadjar, who will be promoted to Red Bull, and Yuki Tsunoda would be receiving the axe from the entire Red Bull camp. Helmut Marko sent a fierce warning to Tsunoda that if results don't show up, especially after Imola, then the team would be forced to commit to a change sooner rather than later. On top of that, the veteran Austrian spoke about the talent of Lindblad. He elaborated, "Lindblad is just 17 years old and has been very fast in all categories right from the start. He is mentally strong and incredibly determined. From his overall characteristics, Lindblad is also someone who can become one of the greats. Generally, he can now drive a full race. We only have one reserve driver, Ayumu Iwasa, but there are overlaps with the Japanese championship, so it was important for us to have a second reserve driver. It's a cruel world that we're living in, but Marko believes there isn't anything more they could have done to see a different scenario here. Lindblad has been dubbed as the next superstar of Red Bull, so it's highly likely that his future will be next to Verstappen, or whoever else may be in that seat, by the time Arvid matures for a Red Bull drive. On the other hand, it would almost certainly be a demotion for Tsunoda, and potentially for Hadjar as well, if the Frenchman doesn't perform well in the Austrian team. We've seen how Racing Bulls and Red Bull are polar opposites in terms of car performance. Drivers promoted to Red Bull are actually demoted in terms of machinery. The same could apply to Hadjar, and with Lindblad now knocking on the door, the young drivers in Red Bull won't have an easy time adapting to the pressure being applied on them. When talking about a potential F1 seat, Lindblad insisted that nothing has been fixed yet. He said, "I am very grateful and proud to have the opportunity to participate in Formula One sessions. Whether that will actually happen, I do not know yet. I still have to talk to Red Bull about that. For now, I am just happy to have the opportunity at all. Red Bull probably knows more than I do. I was never involved in any of those conversations." There have been a lot of talks that Lindblad could become a Red Bull driver for one race only, now that he's been given the super license under exemption rules. However, Arvid said loud and clear that the request for exemption had been made in February. When speaking about it in greater detail, Lindblad explained, "The super license was requested in February, so I think it's much more of a coincidence with Max's situation. It's kind of been approved at a time when Max is a bit on the edge with the points, but I don't know what the plan would be if something were to happen." Logically enough, Red Bull wants to keep everything behind closed doors. They know someone will have to fall on the sword for Lindblad to make it to Formula One. The reality is brutal when you have a lot of youngsters whose performances vary from race to race. But when it comes to the second seat next to Verstappen, it doesn't get any hotter than Yuki Tsunoda right now. The Japanese driver has been waiting for a promotion for 5 years. And when he finally got the seat, he saw that the car was far from what he had hoped it would be. To add salt to the wound, drivers like Hadjar and Lindblad are now seen as the future of the team. So, if Tsunoda doesn't pick up the pace and start scoring points from Austria onwards, the pressure is only going to grow. When talking about the environment he's currently in, Tsunoda said, "With our team, you want to be as high as possible, but I enjoy this challenge. I guess in these moments I am having a lot of pressure. Sometimes I am not enjoying them that much, but it's part of the time that is an opportunity to improve myself and prove myself more." That is something Tsunoda should have expected when being promoted to Red Bull. After just 2 races in the season, with Lawson's demotion making him the shortest-lived driver in the Austrian team of all time, Tsunoda should have seen the writing on the wall. As I said, the team is now looking forward to seeing what Lindblad could do in testing and in the FP1 sessions. It's quite natural to think that Arvin is going to be a big superstar on the F1 grid. He's currently fighting for the F2 championship and is the youngest driver to score a pole position and a race win in the history of F2. And as if that wasn't enough, he had a little time for some off-road activities to further prove his talent. Lindblad became the first F1 driver to score a goal with an F1 car after a stunt he performed in the UK. The feeling for Arvin was awesome, and his only hope is that he could race in Formula One to prove that he's here for a long time.